The front door slammed before Adrian Vale could even unlock it. He hadn't expected to return early from his business trip, but the quiet of his empty mansion made him uneasy. And then he saw it, the sunlight spilling across the polished floors, the faint echo of music, and his son, Milo, spinning barefoot in the middle of the living room. Except Milo wasn't alone. Elena, the maid he barely trusted, moved beside him with surprising grace, guiding his tiny hands in a dance he'd never thought possible. Milo's laughter filled the room, a sound Adrian hadn't heard in months, and it tore through him, a mix of joy, fear, and disbelief. "What's happening here?" Adrian whispered, but the answer on Milo's face stopped him cold, pure, unguarded happiness. And suddenly, he realized that in returning early, he hadn't just walked into a moment, he had walked into a storm that would challenge everything he thought he knew about family, trust, and love. Because this dance wasn't just a lesson. It was the beginning of a reckoning. Before diving into the gripping details of this story, don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more thrilling stories. When Adrian Vale's private jet touched down 3 days ahead of schedule, even his pilot looked startled. "Emergency meeting cancelled," Adrian muttered, loosening the knot of his tie. "I don't need a reason to go home." But he did have one. Guilt had gnawed at him for weeks. His 6-year-old son, Milo, needed him, even if Adrian didn't always know how to reach him. Milo's world was quiet, patterned, and delicate. Adrian's was loud, relentless, and driven by numbers. He often feared he was failing the one job that mattered most. He stepped through the front door of the sprawling Vale estate without announcing himself. The house was unusually quiet. No staff rushing around. No hum of vacuum cleaners. Only faint music drifting from the sunroom. Soft piano. He frowned. Milo hates noise. Why would anyone? He followed the melody. When he reached the doorway, he froze. There, in the center of the pale gold sunlight, his maid, Elena, was gently moving her hands in slow, sweeping arcs. Milo mirrored her, step by uneven step. His little face, usually set in concentration or anxiety, glowed with something Adrian had rarely seen. Joy. Elena spoke in a warm whisper, "Just follow the rhythm you feel, not the one you hear." "That's it, sweetheart. You're doing beautifully." Milo's feet shuffled, then spun, awkward, earnest, free. Adrian felt his chest tighten. He wasn't sure if it was awe or shame. Elena turned and gasped when she saw him. "Mr. Vale. I didn't know you were back." "I can see that," he said, though his voice came out more strained than stern. He looked at Milo. "Buddy, you're dancing?" Milo hesitated at the unexpected interruption, his hands fluttering anxiously. Elena knelt beside him. "It's okay," she murmured. "You can keep going." Milo looked from her to Adrian, then back again. Slowly, he reached for Elena's hands, grounding himself. Adrian swallowed hard. "How long," he asked quietly, "has this been happening?" Elena bit her lip. "About a month, sir." Milo started responding to the patterns in dances. They help him understand emotions without words. "I didn't want to overstep, but he loves it." Adrian stared at her, at the gentle steadiness in her eyes, the way Milo clung to her presence like an anchor. "I've worked with therapists for years," he whispered. "None of them ever got this far." Elena smiled softly. "Love gets further than training sometimes." That single sentence hit him like a blow. He suddenly realized how much he had missed, how many moments he had traded for boardrooms and contracts. And yet here was Elena, a maid he'd barely spoken to beyond instructions and payroll, giving his son something priceless. A glimmer of gratitude, then something deeper, warmer, bloomed in his chest. "Elena," he said, voice faint, "I." But the words died. Because at that moment, the music stopped. And Milo froze, eyes wide, breath trembling, staring at the doorway behind Adrian. Adrian turned. A sharply dressed woman stood there with a suitcase in her hand. Milo's mother. His ex-wife. Her voice cut through the sunlit room like ice. "Well," she said, eyes narrowing on Elena, "isn't this interesting?" Adrian's breath caught in his throat. "Lydia," he said slowly, "you weren't supposed to be here until next month." His ex-wife stepped into the sunroom like she owned the light in it. Her heels clicked sharply against the floor, too sharp for Milo. His hands shot up to his ears, body curling in on itself. Elena instinctively knelt to shield him from the sound, moving like a mother bird sheltering a trembling chick. Lydia's gaze flickered with irritation. "He's still doing that? Honestly, Adrian, you coddle him too much." Adrian stiffened. "He's overwhelmed." "That would overwhelm anyone." "Not if he learned to adapt," Lydia countered, brushing imaginary dust off her blazer. "He needs structure, not barefoot waltzing with the maid." Elena's cheeks flushed with embarrassment, but she stayed silent, keeping her arms gently around Milo. "Mom," Milo whispered, barely audible. Lydia blinked, startled. He rarely spoke to her. "Yes, darling?" But instead of going to her, Milo buried his face into Elena's shoulder. Adrian saw the way Lydia's mouth tightened at the corners. A familiar storm gathered behind her perfect composure. "This is unbelievable," she said. "I leave for a few months, and suddenly he's attached to the staff? Adrian, I hope you understand how inappropriate this is." Adrian met her stare evenly. For the first time in years, he didn't feel small in front of her. He felt resolute. "Elena has done more for our son in a month than anyone else has in years," he said. "She's not just staff. She cares." "A little too much," Lydia snapped. "You don't see what's happening? He's becoming dependent on her. And you," her eyes narrowed sharply. "You're letting a stranger influence him because you're too busy feeling guilty to parent." Elena's head lowered, as if she'd been struck. Adrian stepped forward. "She's not a stranger. And I won't let you talk to her, or Milo, that way." Lydia folded her arms. "Then it's time we reevaluate custody." The room fell dead silent. Even the dust motes in the sunbeams seemed to stop drifting. Adrian felt the ground shift beneath him. "What are you talking about?" "I think," Lydia said with icy calm, "that Milo should live with me full-time. Somewhere stable. Somewhere structured. Somewhere, without this." She gestured dismissively toward Elena. Milo whimpered, clinging tighter. Adrian's heart cracked. "You can't take him from his home," he whispered. Lydia lifted her chin. "Watch me." Elena rose slowly, lifting Milo with her. "Please," she said softly, "don't upset him. He can hear everything." But Lydia's gaze burned with something personal, older than the argument, sharper than concern. "Oh, I'm not done," she murmured. "And you, miss, whatever your name is." "Elena." Adrian's voice was steel. "Her name is Elena." Fine, Lydia said coolly. Then Elena should pack her things. She's fired. Milo gasped, a broken, primal sound Adrian had never heard from him. Before Adrian could respond, Milo's small hands trembled violently, and he suddenly bolted out of Elena's arms, fleeing down the hallway in terrified, frantic steps. Milo! Adrian shouted. Elena sprinted after him. Lydia huffed. See what I mean? Chaos. This house is chaos. Adrian turned to her, fury rising, but then a distant crash echoed from the hallway, followed by silence. Adrian's blood ran cold. Elena, he called out. Milo? No answer. He took off running. But when he rounded the corner, he froze at the sight before him. And his entire world tilted. Adrian's heart hammered as he sprinted down the hallway, Lydia close behind him. The crash replayed in his mind, something breaking, or someone falling, he couldn't tell. He turned the corner and stopped so abruptly that Lydia collided with his back. Elena was kneeling beside Milo. Shards of a shattered porcelain vase glittered on the floor around them like fallen stars. One of Milo's hands was bleeding, a thin, trembling line of red across his palm. But he wasn't crying. He wasn't moving. He sat perfectly still, staring at his own hand as though it didn't belong to him. Milo. Adrian dropped to his knees, reaching for his son. Elena gently caught his wrist before he touched him. Careful, he's shut down. Adrian froze. He'd seen meltdowns. Panic. Tears. But shutdowns were different. Quieter. Deeper. Scarier. Milo sat in that fragile stillness, chest rising too fast, eyes glazed as if he'd slipped behind a locked door in his mind. What happened? Adrian whispered. I'm not sure, Elena said softly, scanning Milo with steady, trained calm. He ran right into the table. The vase fell in. I think the noise overwhelmed him. Lydia scoffed. This is exactly why he needs structure. Lydia, Adrian said sharply. Not now. But she kept going. He wouldn't be like this if. Lydia, he snapped, not now. She clamped her mouth shut, stunned into silence. Elena looked up at him with worried, apologetic eyes. He's dissociating. We need to bring him back slowly. Familiar sensations. Soft voice. Don't touch him without warning. Adrian nodded, throat tight. He knelt directly in front of his son, leaving space, letting his voice drop to a whisper meant only for him. Hey, buddy. I'm right here. You're safe. Milo didn't blink. A tear slipped down Adrian's cheek, quiet and helpless. I'm sorry, kiddo. I shouldn't have let this happen. Elena took a gentle breath and began humming the same soft piano melody they'd danced to earlier. Not loudly. Just enough to thread through the air like a warm breeze. Slowly, Milo's eyes flicked. He blinked once. Then twice. Then he lifted his good hand, reaching toward Elena's voice. She smiled through her own trembling relief. There you are, she whispered. We've got you. Adrian exhaled shakily, the crushing weight on his chest easing a fraction. But Lydia's expression hardened. Enough, she said, stepping forward. He needs a doctor. And a different environment. And rules. This, she gestured to the three of them on the floor, is exactly the situation I'm ending. I'm calling my attorney tonight. Custody arrangements begin tomorrow. Adrian rose to his feet, face pale but resolute. You're not taking my son from me. She met his voice with ice. Watch me. Elena gently lifted Milo's injured hand to examine it. We need to clean this cut, she murmured, refusing to look up at the argument towering over her. But then Lydia said something that made Elena freeze. Pack your bags, Elena. You're done here. Adrian felt something inside him snap. No, he said. She's not. Lydia's eyes flared. You can't be serious. I'm very serious. His voice didn't waver. Elena stays. Lydia stepped closer, narrowing her gaze like she was assessing a business rival. You're defending her? The maid? Why? Adrian opened his mouth. But before he could speak, Elena said softly, Mr. Vale, you don't have to. Yes, he said, cutting her off gently, I do. His pulse thundered in his ears. He knew exactly why he was defending her, but admitting it might change everything. He turned toward Lydia. Elena stays, he repeated. Because I. But he stopped. Because behind them, Milo suddenly whispered, barely audible but unmistakable. Dance. All three adults turned. Milo's eyes were still glassy, but he was looking straight at his father. Reaching. Asking. In the middle of an argument that could tear the family apart, he was asking his father to dance. And Adrian's heart broke open. He knelt again, voice trembling. Yeah, buddy. If you want. I'll dance with you. But before he could take Milo's hand, Lydia's phone chimed. She glanced at the screen, and her eyes widened with shock. Oh my. Adrian, she breathed. You need to see this. She turned the phone toward him. And when he saw what was on the screen, his entire world tilted again. This time, in a way that changed everything. Adrian stared at Lydia's phone, his stomach plummeting. On the screen was a breaking news alert, his name plastered across the headline. Vale Industries stock plummets after unauthorized data leak, CEO under investigation. For a moment, the hallway seemed to tilt. The words blurred, then snapped back into focus, colder and sharper. What? He whispered. Lydia's voice lost its edge, replaced by brittle alarm. This just broke 5 minutes ago. It's everywhere. The board is already scrambling. Elena looked up from Milo, worry etching her gentle features. What does it mean? It means, Lydia said tightly, someone leaked confidential files. And the authorities think it came from inside Vale Industries. Adrian felt the blood drain from his face. They think I leaked my own company's data? That's insane. But Lydia's eyes held something more dangerous than fear, recognition. Adrian, she murmured slowly, this isn't a small breach. This looks intentional. Targeted. You have enemies in that industry. Competitors who do anything to get you removed. Milo tugged weakly at Elena's sleeve. Daddy. Adrian forced himself to focus. It's okay, buddy. I'm right here. But everything inside him was shaking. His company. His son. His home. All unraveling at the same time. Lydia lowered her voice. The board is going to demand an emergency hearing. They'll suspend you until the investigation clears. And if they think you're unstable at home. Adrian glared. Don't you dare use this against me. This isn't about you, she snapped. It's about what's safest for Milo. Elena looked between them, brows furrowed. Milo needs calm. Not threats. Not fear. Both of you, please, stop arguing in front of him. Her voice was soft, but it cut through the tension like a lantern in fog. Adrian inhaled shakily. You're right. Lydia crossed her arms. We can't pretend everything is fine. Your situation just became a public crisis. And firing Elena, he countered, won't fix it. Lydia's jaw tightened. Milo tugged again, this time weaker, like he was fading back into shutdown. Daddy, he whispered, dance, please. Elena's heart broke visibly. She glanced at Adrian, as if silently urging him, be the man your son hopes you are. But before he could move, Lydia spoke again. And her next words hit like a wrecking ball. Adrian, she said quietly, you don't understand. She held out her phone, her hand trembling now. Scroll down. He did. And froze. A second headline appeared. Leak linked to internal access, suspected culprit identified. Below it, a blurred still image from a security camera. A woman entering a restricted floor of Vale Industries. Her face partially turned, but unmistakable. Elena. The phone slipped from Adrian's fingers and clattered to the floor. Elena's breath caught. What? No, I've never, Mr. Vale, I would never. But Adrian couldn't speak. He couldn't breathe. Lydia's voice was cold and triumphant, and terrified all at once. Adrian, she whispered, your maid is the prime suspect. Elena's eyes filled with hurt so sharp it almost glowed. That's not true. I swear to you, I swear on everything, I didn't do this. Milo whimpered again, confused and overwhelmed, clutching her arm. Adrian's world spun. His heart warred with his logic. His trust warred with the image on that screen. He took a step back. Then another. Elena's voice cracked. You don't believe this, do you? Adrian opened his mouth. But before he could answer, the front door slammed open. Footsteps thundered in. A security officer shouted down the hallway. Mr. Vale. The police are here with a warrant. Elena gasped. Lydia's hand flew to her mouth. And Adrian. Adrian realized he had seconds to decide whom to stand beside when the officers rounded that corner. Adrian's pulse pounded in his ears. The officers' boots echoed like a drumbeat of doom. Milo clutched Elena's hand so tightly it left little white marks on her skin. Mr. Vale. We have a warrant to search this property and take Ms. Elena Morales in for questioning regarding the data breach, the officer barked. Elena froze, her face pale. I didn't do anything. You have to believe me. Adrian stepped forward, putting himself between her and the officer. She's staying right here. Until we figure this out. You can't just take her away in front of my son. His voice was firm, resonant, trembling only slightly. The officer's eyes flicked to Milo, then back to Adrian. Sir, we're just following procedure. Adrian felt something inside him shift, a steel he hadn't known he had. He glanced down at Milo, whose tiny hands were still clutching Elena like a lifeline. The boy's trust was absolute. His faith in Adrian was silent, but unbreakable. No, Adrian said, louder this time. She stays. If you want to investigate, you'll do it somewhere else. Not here. Not with my son in this house. Lydia's eyes widened. Adrian, you can't be serious. If you interfere. I'm serious, Adrian cut her off. And if you try to take him away, my son, without my consent, I will fight you every step of the way. The officer hesitated, clearly weighing the risk of confrontation with the billionaire. Elena squeezed Milo's hand, a mixture of relief and fear flooding her features. Sir, the officer said carefully, we need to secure the scene. Protocol is protocol. Adrian's gaze hardened. Then we'll secure it together. All of us. But not at the expense of my son's safety. Milo, sensing the tension but drawn by his father's calm, whispered again, dance. Adrian swallowed, his throat tight. He reached for Milo's small hand, then for Elena's, and began to sway slowly to the faint memory of the piano melody. Milo hesitated, then stepped into the motion. Elena oared them both, and for a brief, miraculous moment, the world outside, the threat, the headlines, the officers, didn't exist. But then a voice crackled over the officer's radio. Sir, you might want to see this before it escalates. The officer held up a tablet. Adrian took it with trembling hands. On the screen was a security camera clip, different from the first. This one showed a masked figure entering Vale Industries' server room. The timestamps matched the breach. But something made Adrian's stomach drop, the figure's height, posture, and even the subtle tilt of the head. It was not Elena. Adrian felt his breath catch. She didn't do this. The officer's eyes narrowed. Then why did the board, and the authorities, think she did? Lydia stepped back, suddenly pale herself, as if realizing the walls of certainty she'd built were crumbling. Elena whispered, voice barely audible, I told you. I would never hurt him, or your company. Adrian turned toward her, heart aching with both relief and anger. We're going to prove it, he said quietly. I swear we are. Milo looked up at Adrian, hope flickering in his wide eyes, and whispered again, dance. Adrian nodded, pressing his forehead against his son's, whispering, yes, buddy. We're going to dance, through all of this. But outside the sunlit room, the masked intruder was already moving, someone who knew exactly how to exploit chaos. Someone who knew Adrian, Milo, and Elena better than they could imagine. And in that moment, the storm that had just begun to calm inside the Vale household was about to erupt again, this time, in a way Adrian had never been prepared for. The masked figure moved with unnerving precision across the footage, fingers brushing against security panels as if rehearsing every step. Adrian's chest tightened. Whoever this was, they knew exactly where to strike. Sir, the officer said, voice tense, we can trace this, but it won't be fast. Whoever did this might still be inside your systems. Adrian's jaw clenched. Then we need to act fast. No one leaves this house. Not until I know Milo is safe. Lydia paled further, gripping her phone like a lifeline. Adrian, you don't know what you're dealing with. The board will. I don't care about the board right now, he snapped. My son comes first. Milo, sitting between Adrian and Elena, watched his father closely. His small hand reached for Adrian's again. Adrian held it tightly, drawing strength from the child's trust, the innocence that had survived so much. Elena whispered softly, Milo senses danger. We need to keep him calm. Adrian nodded. Then we dance. The three of them began to sway slowly in the middle of the sunlit room. Milo's tiny feet shuffled, then spun, following the rhythm he felt, not the music he heard. Elena mirrored him, her presence steady and grounding. Adrian held his son's hand, moving in time, letting Milo lead when he faltered. For a moment, it worked. Milo's breathing evened. His wide eyes softened. The fear retreated, replaced by trust. But the sense of calm shattered when the officer's radio crackled again. "Sir, someone just entered the property. Unknown vehicle. Front gate disabled. Security cameras offline." Adrian froze. His heart raced. He looked at Elena and Milo. "Stay here. Don't move. No matter what." The officer drew his weapon, signaling Adrian to step back. But Adrian refused. "No. I'm not leaving my son." A shadow fell across the sunroom windows. The masked intruder had arrived. And now, with security cameras down and the gate disabled, there was no way to see what they were planning, or when they would strike. Milo, sensing the tension, pressed closer to Elena. "Daddy, dance?" Adrian swallowed the lump in his throat, forcing a calm he didn't feel. "Yes, buddy. We'll dance, and we'll fight, too." Outside, the masked figure paused at the front gate, hands hovering over the controls. A slow, deliberate smile seemed to form under the mask. And Adrian realized, with a sinking feeling, that this intruder knew everything: his son, his home, and the one person he trusted above all. The intruder was not here for the company. They were here for Milo. Adrian's hands shook as he glanced between Milo and Elena. The child clung to her like a lifeline, unaware of the shadow gathering outside. Adrian had always believed money and influence could shield them from anything, but now, none of that mattered. The officer moved to the window, peering through the blinds. "Sir, there's someone at the gate. They're trying to override the lock. Whoever this is, they're professionals." Adrian's gut dropped. "Milo," he whispered, crouching to his son's level. "We're going to stay safe. I promise you. No one touches you." Milo's lips trembled as he whispered, "Dance." "Daddy." Adrian nodded, taking a deep breath. "Then we dance. We dance and we stay strong." He reached for Milo's tiny hands and Elena's, and together the three of them moved in slow, careful rhythm. It was a fragile shield, a heartbeat of normalcy in the storm. Milo's small feet shuffled in time, and for a moment, the intruder outside seemed powerless against the warmth of the sunlit room. But then, the sound of breaking glass shattered the fragile calm. Adrian's head whipped toward the source. The back entrance, the conservatory, had been smashed open. Shards glittered on the marble floor like cruel stars. A dark figure slipped through the opening, moving with predatory precision. "Stay!" Adrian shouted, his voice low and sharp, but Milo's instincts made him freeze in Elena's arms. The intruder stepped into the sunroom, and Adrian's heart stopped. The mask obscured the face, but the stance, the slow, confident movements, they were too deliberate to be random. "You've been a difficult father to track," a deep, distorted voice said, "but it's finally time we meet." Adrian's mind raced. Was this about the data breach? Or something far more personal, far more dangerous? Elena stepped in front of Milo instinctively, her body trembling but firm. "You're not touching him," she shouted. The masked figure tilted their head, as if amused. I'm not here for you, but you're a problem I'll remove if necessary. Adrian's chest tightened. His son's safety, everything, hung in the balance. His hands tightened around Milo's. Milo, he whispered, hold on to me. Don't let go. Not for a second. The intruder advanced slowly, deliberately. And in that instant, Adrian realized something terrifying. Whoever this was, they didn't just know about Vale Industries. They knew them, the house, the routines, the patterns. They had planned this. And Adrian had only seconds to act. He took a deep breath, looked at Elena and Milo, and whispered. We fight together, and we dance through it. The masked figure raised a hand. Milo's tiny voice trembled, Daddy, dance. Adrian's grip tightened. The intruder's hand hovered over something inside their coat. And then, the lights went out. Darkness swallowed the sunroom. The sudden blackout made every shadow feel alive, every creak of the house amplified. Milo whimpered and pressed closer to Elena, his small body trembling. Adrian's heart pounded as he fumbled for his phone. No signal. No lights. Only the sound of the intruder moving, deliberate and silent, in the darkness. Stay close to me, Milo, Adrian whispered, his voice low but steady. He wrapped one arm around his son and held Elena's hand tightly with the other. We're together. Nothing's going to separate us. The intruder's voice came from somewhere in the darkness, calm, measured, and chilling. You can't hide. You're too predictable. Adrian's mind raced. Predictable. That word hit him harder than a punch. Everything about the Vale estate, the routines, the schedules, the security, was known to this person. They had planned this for a long time. Elena whispered, he's using the blackout to his advantage. We need light. Something loud. Something that will scare him off or at least distract him. Adrian nodded, searching in the dark. His hand found the edge of a small speaker still plugged in from Milo's music earlier. He grabbed it and fumbled for the power button. The faint glow of the speaker flickered on. He pressed play. The soft piano melody that Milo loved filled the dark room. For a moment, silence. Then, faintly, Milo's voice, dance. Adrian's heart clenched. He smiled through the panic and took a deep breath. Yes, buddy. We dance. Right here. Right now. He gently guided Milo to step with him, Elena following, their movement small, careful, but in rhythm. The music, the movement, the connection, it was their shield. A shadow shifted near the broken window. The intruder hesitated, unnerved by the sudden defiance, the unyielding bond between father, son, and maid. Stop pretending, the intruder hissed. You don't know what's coming. Adrian's voice was calm but unwavering. We know what we are, and we know we won't be broken. Not by fear. Not by threats. And not by you. The intruder froze. A glint of metal caught the faint light, the edge of a weapon. Milo's hand squeezed Adrian's tightly. Daddy. Yes, buddy. I'm right here. I won't let go, Adrian whispered. Suddenly, a loud crash echoed from upstairs, the sound of someone forcing open the study door. The intruder's attention snapped toward the new noise. Adrian knew this might be their only chance. He whispered urgently, Milo, Elena, follow me, quickly. Stay close. The three of them moved toward the concealed hallway leading to the library, a safe spot Adrian had set up years ago for emergencies. But just as they reached it, a hand shot out from the darkness, grabbing the back of Adrian's coat. He spun, ready to confront the intruder. And then, he froze. Because in the dim glow of the speaker, he saw the face under the mask. It was someone he never expected. Someone he thought he had lost years ago. Someone who knew Milo too well. And their grin was chilling. "Hello, Adrian," the intruder whispered. "Long time no see." Adrian's stomach dropped. His mind raced. That voice, that presence, it was impossible. "Morgan," he whispered, disbelieving, his heart hammering. The intruder's mask tilted slightly, then was ripped away in a swift motion. Morgan Vale, the man Adrian thought had vanished after the failed merger years ago, stood before him. Hair streaked with gray, eyes sharp, calculating. And worse, the smirk on his face was the same one Adrian remembered from boardroom battles and bitter family betrayals. "You should have stayed away, Morgan," Adrian said through clenched teeth, keeping one hand firmly on Milo's shoulder. "This ends tonight. You don't touch my son." Morgan chuckled, slow and cold. "Oh, Adrian, you always underestimate me. I didn't come here for your company. I came for something far more personal." Milo flinched, pressing closer to Elena. "Daddy, scary," he whispered. Adrian's heart ached. He bent down, trying to calm his son. "It's okay, Milo. I'm right here. Nothing's going to happen to you. Not while I'm standing." Morgan's eyes flicked to Milo. "And that's exactly why I'm here. You've been so busy building your empire, Adrian, raising your perfect life, that you forgot about family. That you forgot about what really matters." Adrian felt a cold fury rise. "You don't get to use my son as leverage. Not you. Not anyone." Morgan smiled, a dangerous glint in his eye. "Oh, I'm not using him. I'm testing him. Testing you. Let's see if you're the man you claim to be." Before Adrian could react, Morgan reached toward a small device clipped to his belt. A soft beep filled the room. Elena reacted instantly. "No. Don't." The beep grew louder. Adrian lunged, grabbing Morgan's wrist just as he pressed the device. A shock of electricity shot through Adrian's arm. He gritted his teeth, holding on despite the pain. "Milo," he shouted. "Go. Run to the library. Now." Milo hesitated for a heartbeat, confused and frightened. But seeing his father struggling, he ran, with Elena right behind him. Adrian's arm throbbed, sparks crackling from Morgan's device. But he didn't let go. Not for a second. Morgan's grin widened. "I was hoping it wouldn't come to this. But you're stronger than I thought, Adrian." Suddenly, another sound pierced the tension, a loud crash from outside. Adrian realized the officers had arrived at the front gate, finally breaking through the masked intruder's entrance. Morgan froze, eyes darting toward the sound. "This isn't over," he hissed. And before Adrian could respond, Morgan vanished into the shadows, leaving a trail of chaos in his wake: broken furniture, shattered glass, and a lingering threat that hung heavier than the smoke of the short-circuited lights. Adrian collapsed against the wall, breathing hard, staring at the hallway where Milo and Elena had disappeared. The house was quiet, too quiet. Milo's small voice called from the library, trembling, "Daddy, you're okay?" Adrian rushed toward them, relief washing over him. He scooped Milo into his arms, holding him tight, while Elena clutched his other hand. For a moment, it felt like the storm had passed. But deep in his chest, Adrian knew better. Morgan Vale wasn't finished. And the next move, the next confrontation, could change everything Adrian had ever fought for. Adrian held Milo close, feeling the little boy's rapid heartbeat against his chest. Elena's hand remained firmly in his, her grip steady, grounding him. Outside, the faint sounds of the security team moving through the estate echoed like distant thunder. But Adrian's mind wasn't on them. It was on Morgan, the man who had returned from the shadows of the past to threaten everything Adrian loved. He was clever, dangerous, and personal. This wasn't a random attack. Morgan knew their routines. He knew Milo. Adrian's jaw tightened. "Milo, listen to me," he said gently, brushing the child's hair back. "We're going to be safe now. But we need to stay close, okay?" Milo nodded, still trembling. "Dance." "Daddy?" Adrian let out a shaky laugh, a mixture of relief and lingering fear. "Yes, buddy. Let's dance through it. Just like we practiced." Even in the dim light of emergency lamps, Adrian could see the joy flicker in Milo's eyes as he began to move, slow and careful, following the rhythm of an imaginary melody. Elena mirrored him, swaying beside them. But their moment of calm was shattered when the sound of footsteps returned, closer this time, deliberate. Adrian stiffened. "Morgan," he whispered under his breath. From the shadows of the hallway, Morgan emerged, this time without a mask. His eyes gleamed, cold and calculating. "You're good at keeping secrets, Adrian," he said, his voice soft but deadly. "But you can't hide forever. I know where he sleeps, where he plays, where you let your guard down." Adrian stepped in front of Milo. "I'm not letting you anywhere near him." Morgan's lips curved into a chilling smile. "Oh, I'm not here to hurt him, yet. I want to see if you can protect him. If you can handle the responsibility you've been ignoring for so long." Adrian's chest tightened. "Responsibility? I've spent every day trying to give him the world. And I won't let you threaten that." Morgan took a slow step closer, but Adrian held his ground. Milo's small voice broke the tense silence. "Daddy, dance." Adrian's resolve crystallized. He took Milo's hand and lifted him slightly, guiding him into the small dance they had been practicing. Elena mirrored them, moving with quiet grace. Morgan's eyes narrowed. "Clever, using love as a weapon. But it won't last. You can't control everything forever." Adrian spun Milo gently, feeling the boy's giggle break the tension for a heartbeat. "Maybe not," he said, voice steady, "but we can protect what matters. Right now, this moment, that's ours. And you won't take it." Morgan's lips twitched into a smirk, then he retreated a step. "We'll see, Adrian. This is only the beginning. You're going to have to choose, family or empire. And the consequences will be unforgettable." Before Adrian could respond, Morgan disappeared into the shadows, leaving the family in the flickering emergency lights. Adrian hugged Milo tightly, feeling the warmth of the child's trust and the grounding presence of Elena beside him. But deep down, he knew this wasn't over. Outside, the faint sirens of approaching police grew louder, but inside the Vale estate, a different storm was just beginning. And Adrian realized, with a cold certainty, that Morgan Vale would return. And next time, he wouldn't just threaten. The night had settled into a tense stillness. Outside, police sirens hummed faintly in the distance, but inside the Vale estate, the tension was suffocating. Adrian held Milo tightly in his arms, Elena's steady hand on his shoulder, and yet the shadow of Morgan Vale lingered in every corner. Adrian's mind raced. Morgan hadn't just come back to taunt him, he was testing him, trying to force Adrian into a choice, family or empire. But Adrian had already made that choice long ago. Milo came first. Always. "We need a plan," Elena whispered. "He knows the layout of the house. He could strike again." Adrian nodded. "We'll use what he doesn't expect. Milo knows this house in ways no intruder can. He trusts routines. And, maybe we can use that." Milo tilted his head, still trembling. "Dance." Adrian smiled faintly, brushing back his son's hair. "Yes, buddy. Dance. But this time, it's a dance to distract, to protect, and to win." He set Milo down gently, guiding him to the center of the sunroom. Elena mirrored them, keeping close. Adrian took a deep breath, mentally mapping escape routes and defensive positions. Morgan had always underestimated one thing: love's unpredictability. Suddenly, a soft click echoed from the hall. The lights flickered. Morgan appeared again, emerging from the shadows like a predator circling prey. His expression was unreadable. "Adrian," he said calmly, "I admire your devotion. But this is where your choices catch up with you. One wrong move, and everything you love is gone." Adrian squared his shoulders. "I've already made my choice. Milo stays. Elena stays. And you, leave. Now." Morgan tilted his head, amused. "Bold words. But we both know I didn't come here just for words." In a flash, Morgan lunged toward them. Adrian acted instinctively. He grabbed a nearby vase, not the one Milo had broken earlier, but a heavy, solid urn, and hurled it toward the intruder. Morgan dodged, but it was enough to stagger him. "Run!" Adrian shouted to Milo and Elena. Elena scooped Milo into her arms. They bolted toward the library, weaving through the dim light, Adrian right behind them. Morgan recovered quickly, moving to intercept, but Adrian reached a set of stairs leading to a concealed upper hallway. He led them there, barricading the door behind them with a heavy chair. Milo clung to Elena, eyes wide but beginning to calm. "Daddy, we safe?" Adrian knelt, holding both of them. "For now. But we're not done. Not yet." Elena looked at him, concern and admiration in her eyes. "We need to end this. He won't stop." Adrian's jaw tightened. "Then we confront him. Together. And this time, I'm not just protecting my son. I'm protecting my family, my home, and I'm not letting anyone take that from us." Outside, footsteps echoed in the main hall. Morgan's laughter carried through the house, low, mocking, and chilling. Adrian stood, determination blazing in his eyes. "Milo, remember the dance?" Milo nodded hesitantly. Adrian smiled, lifting his son just enough to spin him around. "Then let's dance. And when the music ends, we fight." Elena stepped forward, forming a protective line beside them. The hallway grew silent for a heartbeat. Then Morgan's voice echoed from below. "You think a game can save you? Let's see how far your dance takes you, Adrian." Adrian's heart pounded. He realized the moment had come. Not just to defend Milo, but to confront the man who had haunted his life, who had threatened everything he loved. And as the intruder moved closer, Adrian knew one truth: the fight for Milo's future, and their family's redemption, would not end until either Morgan Vale was defeated, or they lost everything. Adrian's pulse thundered in his ears as he gripped Milo and glanced at Elena. The hidden hallway felt impossibly small, but it was their only advantage. Every second counted. Morgan's voice echoed through the house again, sharp and mocking. "You can hide, Adrian, but you can't run forever," Morgan sneered. Adrian took a deep breath. He looked down at Milo, whose small hands clutched his father's shirt. "Buddy," Adrian whispered, "we've danced through scary things before. We can do it again. You ready?" Milo nodded hesitantly, eyes wide but trusting. "Then follow my lead," Adrian said. He put his hands around Milo's, guiding him into the slow, practiced movements they had rehearsed together. Elena mirrored them, forming a protective circle. It wasn't just a dance, it was a heartbeat of calm, a signal to Milo that they were together, strong, unbroken. Downstairs, footsteps approached rapidly. Morgan was closing in, but Adrian refused to show fear. He could hear the faint clatter of furniture, the echo of Morgan moving like a shadow through the grand hall. Suddenly, a loud crash came from the main living room. One of the officers had finally intercepted Morgan at the front entrance. Morgan's voice cut through the chaos. "You've brought backup? How quaint." Adrian knew this was their chance. "Milo. Keep moving," he shouted softly, spinning him in a wide arc. Milo giggled, a small, precious sound that broke through the tension like sunlight through clouds. The sound distracted Morgan. Adrian seized the moment. He grabbed a decorative curtain rod and quietly edged toward the top of the stairs. Elena moved beside him, still shielding Milo. Morgan's shadow fell on the steps below. "You think you can escape me?" he called, voice tight with annoyance. Adrian held his breath. Then, in one swift motion, he swung the rod, forcing Morgan back just long enough for the police to breach the front hall. The sudden shouts and flashing lights disoriented Morgan, giving Adrian the opening they needed. "Run! Go now!" Adrian yelled. Elena carried Milo down the secondary staircase, her feet light and deliberate, while Adrian stayed behind just long enough to block Morgan's path. Morgan lunged toward Adrian, but an officer tackled him, sending the intruder sprawling. Morgan's eyes locked on Adrian, fury and surprise mingled in a flash. "This isn't over," he snarled. Adrian didn't respond. His focus was on Milo. Elena emerged from the stairs, Milo safe and laughing softly despite the ordeal. Adrian ran to them, scooping Milo into his arms. For the first time that night, Adrian let himself breathe. Milo's small laughter mingled with the distant noise of police securing the estate. The threat had not vanished completely, but for now, they were together, safe and unbroken. Milo pressed his face against Adrian's chest. "Daddy, dance again?" Adrian laughed, tears pricking his eyes. "Yes, buddy. We can dance forever if we want." Elena smiled, relief flooding her features. "You did it, Adrian. You protected him, both of them." Adrian looked down at Milo, then at Elena, and realized something he had always feared he'd never admit: he didn't need to choose between the Empire and his son. Family always came first. Outside, Morgan was led away in handcuffs, his eyes still burning with hatred. But Adrian knew, deep down, that no matter what challenges came next, nothing could ever break the bond he now shared with his son, and with Elena, who had become part of their family. Adrian hugged Milo tightly, whispering, "We're safe for now, but whatever comes next, we face it together." Milo smiled, small and bright, and whispered, "Dance, forever?" Adrian laughed softly. "Forever, buddy. Always." And for the first time in months, the Vale estate felt like home again. Weeks had passed since the night Morgan Vale had infiltrated the estate. The police had cleared the case. Morgan had been orchestrating a long-term scheme, exploiting old family rivalries and corporate secrets, but thanks to the quick thinking and courage of Adrian, Milo, and Elena, his plans had failed. He was now in custody, and the threat that had haunted the Vale household had been removed, at least for now. The estate was quiet again, but not in the tense, fearful way it had been before. It was quiet with life, Milo's laughter echoing down the hallways, Elena moving around the house with calm efficiency, and Adrian finally present, fully immersed in his son's world. Adrian watched from the sunroom as Milo danced in the sunlight, spinning in small, imperfect circles. Elena moved beside him, guiding his hands with gentle patience, while Adrian tapped along with a small rhythm on the piano nearby. "You're getting really good at this," Adrian said softly, smiling. Milo beamed. "Daddy, dance." Adrian chuckled and joined him in a careful spin. The boy laughed, pure and bright, and for the first time, Adrian felt like he wasn't missing any more of his life. After the ordeal, Adrian had made changes, not just in the house's security, but in himself. He reduced his travel, started attending Milo's therapy sessions, and made sure every day contained a moment just for his son. He had also promoted Elena to a position far beyond Maid. She was now Milo's full-time caregiver and companion, and in many ways, a part of their family. One afternoon, as they finished a small routine dance, Milo clapped his hands. "Again." Adrian laughed, scooping him up. "Again it is. But you know what, buddy? Next time, we'll make it a whole performance, just for us." Elena smiled, brushing a strand of hair from Milo's face. "He's happy, Adrian. And so are you." Adrian's gaze softened, sweeping across the room, the sunlight glinting off the polished floor, Milo spinning and Elena guiding him with tender patience. "We're all happy. And safe. And together. That's what matters." As they danced, Adrian felt a sense of peace settle over him. The empire could wait. The boardrooms, the business deals, they could all wait. Because in this house, in this moment, he had found something far more valuable: connection, trust, and love. Milo spun one last time, landing in Adrian's arms. "Forever dance?" Adrian smiled, holding him close. "Forever dance," he whispered. Outside the window, the Vale estate glimmered in the late afternoon sun, quiet and safe. And though life would always bring challenges, Adrian knew this family, this small, imperfect, beautiful unit, was unbreakable. And somewhere deep inside, he knew that no matter what storms came next, they would face them together, dancing through every moment. The auditorium lights were warm and bright, casting a golden glow over the polished stage. Parents and children filled the seats, murmuring softly, the excitement buzzing like electricity. Adrian sat in the front row, heart thudding. Elena sat beside him, holding Milo's small backpack and a water bottle. He could barely believe this moment had come, Milo's first public dance recital. "Milo," Adrian whispered, brushing the boy's hair from his forehead, are you ready? Milo nodded, his small hand clutching Adrian's. Dance. Daddy, he said, eyes bright and confident. Adrian smiled. That's my boy. Just like we practiced. You got this. Elena leaned down, whispering, remember, Milo, follow the music, feel it, and have fun. We're right here with you. A hush fell over the auditorium as the first notes of the piano filled the air. Milo's eyes widened, recognition sparkling. This was his song, the one he had danced to countless times at home, the one that had been their shield through the storm. He stepped onto the stage, tiny feet moving awkwardly at first. Then, with a gentle guiding hand from Elena, who slipped onto the stage beside him, Milo began to spin, shift his weight, and follow the rhythm he felt. Adrian's chest swelled as he watched. The audience leaned forward, enchanted. Milo's movements weren't perfect, but they were full of life and expression. Each step told a story, of fear overcome, of trust earned, of love and safety rediscovered. Elena smiled, mirroring Milo's motions with graceful sweeps and spins, giving him courage. And when Adrian's eyes met hers, he felt a quiet gratitude he couldn't put into words. She had been his son's anchor, and theirs, through every dark moment. Milo spun one last time, arms outstretched, and the audience erupted into applause. He grinned at the cheering crowd, then looked toward Adrian and Elena. Dance, finished, he whispered proudly. Adrian leapt to his feet, clapping with tears in his eyes. That's my boy. You did it, Milo. Elena's eyes glistened. He's incredible, she said softly. Milo ran into Adrian's arms, laughing, and pressed a small kiss to his cheek. Daddy, again? Adrian hugged him tightly. Again, buddy. Always again. For the first time since Morgan Vale had returned to threaten them, Adrian realized something profoundly true: they were no longer defined by fear or by danger. They were defined by love, resilience, and the joy they created together. And as they stood on the stage, the three of them, father, son, and the woman who had become family, Adrian knew one thing: no storm, no threat, no obstacle could ever break the bond they shared. Because they had danced through it all. A few weeks after Milo's recital, the Vale estate was buzzing, not with fear, but with life. The sun poured through the grand windows, reflecting off the polished floors and warm cream-colored walls. Adrian stood in the kitchen, sipping coffee, while Milo ran around, his laughter echoing like music through the house. Elena entered, carrying a tray of freshly baked muffins. She smiled at Milo, who immediately ran up to her, clinging to her hand. "Good morning, sunshine," she said. "Morning, Elena." Milo chirped, bouncing. Adrian watched them, heart swelling. It had taken months, but he finally felt like their family was whole. Safe. Together. He cleared his throat, feeling a little nervous, though he didn't need to be. Elena had been by their side through the worst moments imaginable, guiding Milo, supporting him, and, even more quietly, supporting Adrian as a father. "Elena," he began, stepping closer, I want you to be part of this family, officially. Milo already thinks you are. I do too." Elena looked at him, eyes wide. Her hand went to her chest. "Adrian." "Stay," Adrian said simply. "Live here. With us. Be Milo's guardian, partner in his dances, and part of our family. You don't have to worry about your place here anymore. It's yours." Milo squealed, clapping his hands. Yay! Family! He ran up and hugged Elena tightly, then turned to Adrian with a grin. Daddy, forever dance. Adrian laughed, lifting Milo into his arms. Forever dance, buddy. Always. Elena joined them in a warm embrace. The three of them stood there, sunlight wrapping around them like a promise. After the chaos, after the fear, after the nights that seemed endless, they had found each other. Adrian realized that the greatest victories weren't in boardrooms or in battles won, they were in moments like this: laughter, trust, love, and the unbreakable bond between father, son, and the woman who had become family. And as Milo spun in Adrian's arms, giggling and full of joy, Adrian whispered softly to Elena, "Whatever comes next, we face it together. No one will ever take this from us." Elena smiled, holding Milo close. Together. Always. And in that golden sunlight, in that quiet, safe home, the Vale family finally felt whole, ready to face the world, hand in hand, dancing through life, forever.